Hello, hello, everybody. Good morning, good morning. It's Barb Pitcock, and it is Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Central. Every Saturday, we do No Guts, No Story. And today, I'm super excited to be with all of you. My partner and co-CEO is doing the training call at 10, so I am going to be off here on time to be there and take notes. But I did want to come to you live before anything else stops you from achieving your goals and dreams and hit the emergency brake. Everybody smash the heart if you feel like you need to hit the emergency brake and make a change. Good morning, Darcy. Good morning, everybody. I see so many of you jumping on here. Good morning, Debbie. So what I want to do, whoops, what happened there? What I want to do right now is just ask all of you for the next few minutes to be absolutely, completely honest. And we're going to go through some exercises. And I did this exercise and it was crazy because sometimes you don't know what you don't know. But it's all about what is keeping you from getting every single thing that you want. Good morning, Melinda. Good morning, Ella. So we really have to watch our tongue. And sometimes it's scary for me to do these kind of exercises because I never ever focus on what I don't want, right? So if I'm afraid of whatever it is, you want to focus on what you want, not what you don't want, or you attract more of what you don't want. So Earl Nightingale says, we become what we think about most of the time. And I can remember thinking my teenage boy was going to turn into a young girl because he was thinking about girls all the time. Or, I remember when I first learned this, it would be, what is the one thing that you think about most of the time? You're going to become what you think about most of the time. And I was like, I'm going to turn into an overdue late notice of a bill, and when we focus on those things, we get more late notices. We get more lawsuits. We get more bad relationships. We get more people screwing us. We get more sickness, or we get more rejection, or we get more feeling of abuse or insecurity, or we get more of addiction or whatever it is. If I'm trying to stop eating, or let's say I have a Diet Coke addiction, and I know for some of you, you're like, boy, if that's the least of your problems, you have no problems. But trust me, that's not the least of my problems. But if I know, and I look in the mirror and I say, I really need to stop drinking Diet Coke, then what I get is more of needing to stop drinking Diet Coke. So honestly, your feelings are completely screwing you every single day because what we speak, we get, what we think we get, what we worry about, we get more of. And so it's kind of like a radar, like you're putting out a signal that says, I am so broke. And so the universe sends you more reasons to stay broke, right? You're putting out a signal, I am so fat. And so the universe sends you Krispy Kreme donut fundraiser and a root beer float from A&W. Like when you think about what you get every single day, you guys, our feelings can completely screw us daily. But you're going to have one of two things. I want you to take your paper, draw a line down the middle of it, and on the left side, put the pain of discipline, and on the right side, you put the pain of regret. And I think if there's one word that's a negative word that drives me every single day, it's the life lessons that I have learned from this big fat word called regret. Now you have to be careful because sometimes I speak out of my mess and I am totally focused on never getting what I have had before. I am totally focused on preventing what has happened in my past. I'm totally focused on driving away from the fear of what I don't want, right? And so I would say sometimes I would be fear-driven. So you're either going to have the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. How many of you fear God? And that is why you get your shit together and you literally think, I can't screw up here because I'm depending on him. Or how many of you fear a bankruptcy? And so instead of spending frivolously, you constantly think about what you're doing because you don't want the latter, right? So it's kind of like walking on a tightrope because you don't want to think about the things that you don't want. But I was listening to a TED Talk last week, and it really struck me because this was a kid, and he was explaining his situation. He could still smell the gunpowder of the night that he almost took his life. And when he was explaining it, you could literally imagine yourself being there. And he had to make a drastic change in his life because in an instant. He said what really made him fear the most is the possibility of what could happen. And he never wanted to get to that point again. And it drove him to make a change. So how many of you have problems? Smash the heart button if you're one of those people that everyone thinks your life is amazing, but if they knew for 1 minute what you were going through, they would absolutely drop over and faint in shock. Like, this is the reality, you guys. Everyone in the world has a lot of problems. And there was a statistic, I wrote it down. Oh my goodness, where did I write that down? There was a statistic that of all the people in America, this was a life coach that was doing this syndicated radio show, and of all the people in America, when they asked, they literally took a poll of how many people were not happy with their life. They were literally like messed up. They weren't going anywhere. They were, 2 weeks away from filing for divorce. They were 1 month away from being in a bankruptcy. It was all these different situations. 1/3 of America said they were absolutely not happy with where they were. 1/3. And then of that, she said, who feels stuck? I can't find the statistic right now. I'm not a numbers girl, so you guys just know 1/3 of all Americans. I don't know how many that is. I think she said 100 million. But that's a lot of people to be miserable when we live in the greatest country in the world as far as opportunity. I mean, think about how to get what you want and why you don't just go get what you want. I mean, that's the real question. And I think the reality is that people don't act on what they really, really want based on fear of what could happen. And so they stay stuck. Like, I had a friend that was married for years in a horrible relationship with a guy that cheated on her. And she was always like, when I get these kids through high school, I'm leaving. Like, can you imagine that feeling? I first got to get these kids through high school, and then I'm going to stand up for myself, right? People who say, well, when I get my children raised, then I'm going to go back to school. Or people who say, someday when my husband retires, then we're going to go take that vacation we've been waiting on. Or how about this one? A guy sold me a car the other day. Once we get enough money saved, then we're going to have children. When you're 35 and you're waiting to have enough money saved, and then you're going to have children, I guess I'm not that green personality, but I will tell you, leap, and that net will appear. And I would much rather have that, oh my goodness, I failed, I'm going to have to get up and try again feeling, than the feeling of regret. I will tell you guys, I have had regret several times in my life. It sucks. It sucks like a broken heart. Have any of you ever had a broken heart? I honestly don't think there's any worse pain than a broken heart and regret. And those are very negative words, but the exercise that I want you to do is not to make you feel bad, not to take your focus onto a situation that wasn't good. Boy, I've got a glare here. The sun doesn't know if it wants to shine on which side of my face. There, my goodness, that's better. Nope, I still got hot spots. Oh well, we're just gonna have to deal with them. But your feelings are what's really screwing you. That is my topic today. If we listen to how you feel when it comes right down to what you want, you will never get it because you will never feel like it. Let me repeat that. If we listen to how you feel when it comes to what you want, you're never going to get it because you're never going to feel like it. And when I say that, we all do things that we need to do based on feelings. How do you know when you need to eat? How do you know when, I should get some food? Because you start to have that feeling. How do you know when you need to be sexually active or you need to go take a nap or whatever it is? I know the sexually active, all the women are like, what? But I'm trying to not be all for the women here. Let's be for everybody listening, right? Exploration and growth is really what our bodies are trying to teach us every single day, right? We're either growing or we're dying, and you don't want to be dying. So when you have these feelings, you guys, it's a signal in your brain. You're like, I'm thirsty. I should get a drink. But the problem is we never have that feeling that says, I should get my butt out of bed at 5 a.m. and go on a walk, because honestly, if I don't want to die, I probably should get my body moving. We never have that urging feeling. Why? Because we don't feel like it. We don't feel like getting out of bed at 5 in the morning and going a walk. We don't feel like fasting from 8 p.m. to 10 a.m. Central because it's not comfortable. And here's what happens, you guys. We get in our head. This is what we say. Well, my family's big boned. And I mean, I just hit menopause and my family's big boned. So we're probably, I mean, most of us are just bigger boned people. No, that's bullshit. Because I have seen my little sister who has a very big bone build, and she's beautiful, drop dead gorgeous. Both of them are. They're way taller than me. But I have seen where when they make a decision, they have the most rockin' body. My little sister Tracy literally looks like a Beyonce body. Like, we sometimes would joke, like, I don't know if we had the same dad because look at the booty on that girl. Like, she's just built like Beyonce. She's beautiful. And you know what? When we let our habits go a certain way, she would be like, I'm so overweight. I'm never wearing shorts. Look at me, blah, blah, blah. But about a couple of months ago, I was at my mom's. It was around Easter, and we were talking, and she's like, I'm not having no cake because I'm down 10 pounds and I'm disciplining. And she was like, I'm going to hit my goal. And it was funny because yesterday she wore this cute little short dress with stripes on it. Her baby graduated preschool, and she was rocking this dress. And in my mind, I was like, pain and discipline. She disciplined herself, and she didn't use the excuse of, oh, this is just the way our family is. This is the way it's always going to be. This is my build. I'm just going to be this size. No, she got in the gym, or she went on a walk, and she quit putting sugar in her mouth, and she drank more water, and she fasted or did whatever she was doing. She did keto, actually. But the thing about it is, we all can make a decision. But I will guarantee you, she wasn't sitting there on Easter like, yeah, I don't really feel like a cookie or a piece of cake. Heck no, she felt like a piece of cake. She wanted it, but she didn't let her feelings screw her. And we all need to do this. When you get in your own head, I'm just stuck in this dead-end relationship. I'm just stuck working for this company. I'm just stuck with my retirement fund. It all went to heck because of the president or this or that. Like, people make up the craziest excuses. Like, we screw ourselves because of the way we feel. It's this poor little old me syndrome that we all get. Drop a heart if you've ever had it. I have had it. Last week, I wanted to cancel every good thing that ever happened to me because my heart was hurting. It didn't matter how good business was. It didn't matter I just sponsored a brand new rock star in my business. It didn't matter it didn't matter what was good. I literally let my feelings get to me. And I will tell you guys, every single one of you has stuff going on. And you think, oh, if anyone knew, what would they think of me? The reality is most people don't care what's happening to you. And we worry so much about what other people are going to think. And the reason why I don't talk about everything that I'm going through is because why? Why suck the life out of everybody around me? There's nothing they can do about it. Only I can deal with the situation and pray about it and surrender it and try to feel good. That is the number one thing you've got to do every single day, you guys, is just try to find the good and feel good. And some days you'll say, how in the world could I do that? Yesterday, I had to make a phone call, and it was one of the hardest phone calls I ever made. And I called, and all of a sudden, I started to talk, and my mouth went dry, and then I just started sobbing uncontrollably. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing this. And I was trying to tell the lady, I'm sorry. And she was like, it's okay. Take a deep breath. And eventually I had to go and get my husband to help me make this phone call. But it sucked. It absolutely sucked to the core. And honestly, I literally wanted to just go lay in the fetal position and say that my feelings were hurt and that I was sad and that I didn't want to do anything except lay in my bed and just pull the covers over my head and cry. But I couldn't because I had commitments that I had made. I had employees that were waiting on their payroll checks. I had people in my downline that were expecting me on a Zoom. I had new promoters that were saying, how do I figure out how to post these recognition posts? I had a call with our co-CEO. I had to go see our moms before we could leave for Disney World. I was taking Cindy food. I mean, I had a million freaking things that I needed to get done. And deep down inside, my feelings were screwing me. And do you know what it was? I wanted to say, this didn't have to happen. It didn't have to happen. And the second thing I wanted to do was blame all the screwed up people that caused it to happen. And then the next thing that I wanted to do was say, it's not fair. Why do bad things happen to good people? And then you want to look up sometimes and be like, God, like, why? How could you allow this to shatter a dream and a goal that was so important to me? And the reality is, we will never know. How many of you have had shattered dreams? How many of you have had broken hearts? How many of you have had people that you loved so much that you were like, how in the world could that person do that to me? You know what the reality is? We all have. We have all had those feelings, and your feelings will screw you. Because the next thing that I wanted to do was say, you know what? I don't really know if I want to buy that lake house. You know what? I don't really know if I want to go to Disney World. You know, I think I'm just going to stay home. And I got myself, I'm teaching you this because I've done it, in a complete freaking downward spiral. And then your feelings screw you and they repel every good thing that was going to happen to you. The next thing I knew, my son called me. Hey, Mom, I really need you. You're so powerful. I'm about to get our vending machines. We have a vending machine that we invented during the pandemic. And we literally spent tens of thousands of dollars on these vending machines because people couldn't go anywhere and everything was closed. And so by the time you get the vending machines, right, everything opens back up. So right now we have a large supply of vending machines in our warehouse, and Chance was on a mission. Mom, I need you. You're so powerful. I need you. Jump on this call. I'm here at Scottsdale. I'm in the airport, blah, blah, blah. And I'm over here like, but I don't want to be on a call. I don't really care about the vending machines right now. How can you be so hyper? Why are you doing this? And then he'll send me a podcast, right? Oh, Mom, you should listen to this. How many of you have ever known that you needed to listen to a podcast, but you didn't feel like listening to a podcast? Be honest. How many of you can relate? Here's the truth, guys. You're never going to feel like doing the things that you need to do, which is why you're going to be screwed because of your feelings. If we were to take your little head and we could measure, say we got this little contraption. I wish I could grab something to like put on my head. You got this little contraption. It goes on your head and it's a speaker. And this speaker takes everything that your mind is saying to you. It takes every feeling, every hurt, every fear, every thought, and it puts it on Wi-Fi radio, right? The whole world can hear your every thought. Do you guys want to know what would happen? You'd all be in a freaking, we would institutionalize you immediately. Like, the girl has lost her mind, lock her up, she's going to harm herself. Like, you wouldn't say to the person that you hated the most the things that you'll say to yourself when your feelings have you in a downward spiral. So what we really need to do, you guys, if you're in your head and you put a speaker on it, I will tell you, this is what Chance always says, that's not God. That's not God, because God wouldn't say those things to you. Only the enemy would. So it takes 5 seconds to change your thought, 5 seconds to learn a new skill, 5 seconds to know through your personal development what you need to do. But here's the kicker. My mentor taught me this 25 years ago. 5 seconds to learn, someone finish the sentence. Somebody that had the same mentor that I had will finish this sentence. It takes you 5 seconds to learn and blink. If my kids were on here, they would nail it because they cut their teeth on this. It takes 5 seconds to learn, and write this down. It takes you a lifetime. Oh, Tina Jones, winner, winner, chicken dinner. She got it. It takes 5 seconds to learn, and it takes a lifetime to master it. So you know what I had to do yesterday? Yes, Maria, she's got it. Yesterday, I just had to pick myself up, and I had to go back to my battle board, and I had to write down some new goals. And you know what? Here's the hard part. Sometimes the painful part of the feelings is that you have to move forward, not knowing if everyone in your dream board is going to be in the picture. That's a painful thing. When you're a mom, when you're a grandma, when you're a mother-in-law, when you're a mentor, when you're a partner, when you're a spouse, you know, all of you, I've never had marriage problems. So praise Jesus. That's one place that I could just say we get an A+ because we communicate. And you know what? If one of us is feeling something and the other's not, we never go to bed mad. We're not going to let everybody else and everything else that's screwed up come between the most important thing. The most important thing in your life is God. the second most important thing is your spouse. And this is hard for some of you to swallow. It's not your kids, it's your spouse. It goes God, then your spouse, then your kids. How many of you moms could honestly say, I got that so screwed up? I got kids, then spouse, and then God, right? Or business first, and then kids, and then God, and then my spouse. Like sometimes we just got to get our own priorities right, because it's kind of like ABCs. Like if everything's not congruent, you're never going to have long-term success. It'll be short-lived, and then you will sabotage it. Why? Because of your feelings. Your feelings will screw you. Your feelings of guilt, your feelings of fear, your feelings of inadequacy, your feelings of comparison to everyone else, your feelings of shame, your feelings of guilt, your feelings of insecurity, your feelings of all these negative things, right? And all these negative things, I want to help you figure out how to let them drive you. So I would never have done this exercise before I heard it. I've heard Tony Robbins talk about it. Like, if you want your kids to not do drugs, take them to the prison, take them to the homeless people, show them the heroin addict, show them the person in prison for life. Like, I never did that. I just never did that. And maybe I should have. But I also never wanted to create fear in my children. I never wanted to shame them into something. I always wanted to be building them up. And, you know, there's different philosophies. We're never going to know who's right. But if you think about what it says in the Bible, it says not to judge, always have unconditional love, and be quick to forgive, right? So I want you to think about every situation in your life, no matter who has hurt you, what you're afraid of, whatever it is. Don't judge. Be quick to forgive. Maybe you have to call and say, hey, I'm sorry, I screwed up. Let's don't not talk for the rest of our lives over this, right? Always be the bigger person, not for them, not because they deserve it, but because it will set you free. And the word, which I can't even hardly pronounce, is called stoicism. Has anybody ever heard of stoicism? I had never heard of it before, but I can relate to this. He said, you know, there is a cow standing out in the field with rain falling on it in a mud puddle, and the cow is fine because he's a cow. But he said, you're a human being. And he compared it to like Bill Belichick, which Chance growing up, Patriots were his all-time favorite team ever. We always had an absolute war in our house if anyone rooted for anyone other than the New England Patriots. And I mean, his number one mentor was on the team. He wanted to be like him. In fact, this year, Dave bought him an autographed jersey because he was like, he literally like always wanted to be like him. And the reality is those kind of people make you want to set the bar higher for yourself, because you're looking at that person. You're saying, I could be and do and have anything I want if I just do what they've done. Now, a cow doesn't have to do anything. He's just going to be where he is and he's going to be fine. But if I asked all of you to be honest today, be honest. Don't be fake book. Be honest. Are you excellent? Amazing? I know we say that every day because that's the affirmation. You know, we wake up and say, I'm alive. I'm alert. I feel great. Even when we're dead tired, want to go lay back in bed and so sad or so mad or so afraid or whatever it is. Like we say, I'm alive. I'm alert. I feel great. We do this every single day. It helps you change your frequency, right? But if we were really being honest right now, and I said, how are you? And it was just me and you, most people would say, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm good. Oh, I'm just getting by. I'm going to be okay. You know, people will just say whatever because it's more comfortable them to be right there than to say, you know what? I'm not good. I'm not good. And I need to make some changes. Stoicism, I guess, I was just learning about this week, is something that is practiced during mental toughness. So like George Washington taught it. Our founding fathers taught it. It's like before Christ stuff. When you're in an emotional free fall and you're just literally letting everything happen, it's the closest thing to death is guilt on the frequency scale. And right by it is just, I don't give a shit. Like, I just don't care anymore. I'm just numb. I just don't care. Whatever happens, happens. How many of you have been there Anybody ever been there where you're just numb? You just give up? You're just like, I don't even know what to say or do anymore. Like, this is just my life and it sucks. In fact, I had a friend tell me one day when he lost his wife, who was my age, and she was the most amazing woman in our community. He said, it's life on earth. It's redemptive suffering. He's like, it's redemptive suffering. This is what it is. Yes, Tina, apathy. She is the best student. Look at her nailing all these things. I had apathy 5 years ago. I met a lot of the ladies that I'm in business with today at an event in Las Vegas. I went to a suite. I met them. I was there. I was going through the motions. Really didn't care. Really didn't give a shit if I ever built a network marketing company again. Really didn't care about the money. Couldn't give a crap about being on that stage. Looking at these $1 million earners like, who gives a shit about being $1 million earner? Because I was one and it was miserable. Like, I don't even want to go through that again. Like, these were my feelings. So when God was trying to bless me with amazing stuff, I have this little trampoline, like he's sending the blessings and I'm like bouncing them like a volleyball, trying to, push it back away, push it back away, push it back away. Why? Because I didn't want the pain. I was acting out of fear, preventing myself from ever feeling like that again. I didn't want to be verbally abused. I didn't want to be bullied. I didn't want someone else to be telling me, you have to be at this convention, or why aren't you going on the incentive trip, or you need to be in Barbados. When my son was playing his last baseball game and he was the MVP his senior year, it was his birthday. I'm on an island with some crazy ass doctor wondering, like, how did I get to this point in my life? I did get to go and see Rihanna's house. That was the highlight of the trip. But the rest of the time was miserable, was absolutely miserable. Like, no amount of money would ever make me want to do that again. The thing about it is, you guys, sometimes we think we know what we want, but we really don't know what we want. And we're afraid to say it because it might not sound good. So I want you to take out a sheet of paper and be honest. What do you really, really want? Do you really want to be $1 million earner? Or do you really just want freedom with your husband and your kids? Do you really want to be the top person in your company? Or do you really just want to pay off your mortgage and be able to have a retirement fund? Do you really want to be healthy? Or are you just trying to get rid of your man boobs so you can get a hot woman to go on a date with you? Like, that's graphic, but that's the reality with the speakers that I was listening to when I learned this. And it really, I need to get up in the morning and work out. And I could say my goal is that I want to be happier, but the reality is it's not that I want to be happier and healthier. It's that I want to see Lola get married someday. I want a ton of grandkids and run around Disney World when I'm 75, not just when I'm 50. And so I think we have to figure out what it is that would scare us into the success. And the stoicism word, which is new to me, I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but it hit me so hard this week when I did this exercise. He said, define your fears instead of your goals. Have any of you ever done this? Because it's emotional. It's crazy. He said, when you're in an emotional free fall, let's say it's Tom Brady and he throws a horrible pass, which some of you will be smashing the heart button because you hate Tom Brady. And some of you guys will be putting the sad face because you love Tom Brady. And I don't really care because I'm not a sports girl. I'm there for the social event, to be quite honest with you. But how many of you have ever practiced this where if Tom Brady throws a bad pass and in his mind he's like, oh my God, I threw a bad pass. We're going to lose the game. I'm a horrible quarterback. I'm sure people are tweeting. I'm probably going to get traded. Like, this is that roller coaster that happens because one bad thing happens and then we self-destruct, self-paralysis. We go into fear mode where we literally don't do anything. And we say, I'm fine. I'm fine. There goes Darcy. She says he's the GOAT. But why would you try this? So this is how you really thrive in stressful environments. Anyone in a stressful environment, if you have adult kids, you're probably in a stressful environment in today's day and age. If you have young high school kids, you're probably in a stressful environment. If you work for someone else, you're probably in a stressful environment, right? So how many of you are in a stressful environment? Let's be honest. You have to train yourself to separate yourself from what you can control and what you can't control. This was the biggest takeaway that I got this week. And then you have to be okay with it. Like, they might never change, and that's okay. But I'm not just going to stop self-destruct and self-paralysis because my feelings are screwing me. I can't just give up on living my best life because I'm dealing with a bunch of screwed up people. Like, and I'm just using this as an analogy, you guys. Some of you are going to be like, oh my God, this is so true. I'm so glad she's being honest. Here's the honest feeling, guys. I've had times where I wished that things were different, but they weren't. And I just had to move on. I've had times that I wished that things were different and I could change someone, but I couldn't. And the worst case scenario, if it happened, I was going to have to figure out a way to live with that. And there's been times where I was in denial, that it was easier to just say, it's okay, it's no big deal. And then all of a sudden the avalanche happens and everyone's running for their life because I didn't look at the signals and hit the emergency brake and say, okay, wait a minute, we're not going down this road because this is a dead end road, or this is going to be an avalanche and we're going to go down the side of the mountain. Like, we've got to stand up and say, I am going to put some boundaries, and I am sick and tired of letting my feelings screw me. And I'm going to go make sure that I can control one thing: my emotions and my feelings. So stoicism is when you train yourself to separate yourself from what you can't control. Like the CEO that flies off the handle in the boardroom, rips everyone's ass, and then looks in the mirror and says, oh my God, I'm going to get 6 resignations tomorrow and everyone's going to leave me and go work for my competitor because I'm an ass. Like, that's when you have to really stop and say, well, I'm afraid, what can I do? I'll give you one more. A college student was sitting in his car in Kansas State University, and it was either Brooklyn or Chance was there in the parking lot, went out to the car to get something, left, came back, there's ambulance there, a kid took his life in the parking lot, and later in the Wildcat newspaper, it talked about this kid that had always been a 4.0 student, always been a top achiever. Everybody wanted him to move far from home. Everybody wanted him to, he was there doing what everyone else wanted him to do, letting his feelings screw him. He wasn't doing well in a class, and it was easier to end it all than to draw the line and the boundary and say, listen, like, I'm not going to self-destruct just because it makes everybody else feel good. Do you know how many kids are trying to live out a dream? I have seen this so many times with football, especially. I'm not going to get into it, but I used to threaten Callie and Chance that one day, when neither one of them were a college athlete, I was going to go like ballistic viral about the situation with college athletes. And then Callie started dating a basketball player who totally loves his experience. And I thought, maybe it's not all bad. But I can't tell you how many kids, especially when Chance was at K-State football, got really close to a lot of kids. I can't tell you how many of them had a situation where they were in a high stress environment and there were things that they could not control. And they literally were worse depressed, self-medicating, crying, looking at Twitter, wanting to end their entire life over someone else's opinion and the high stress situation. And you guys, that is the reality of every single person, not just the college student, not just the college athlete. When the stakes are high and we could either win or lose, we are either going to self-destruct, self-paralysis, or we're going to practice this stoicism. So this is the most amazing exercise. I did it this week and I want to share it with you guys. So you're going to put 3 words. This was my notes. You're going to put define, what if I, prevent, and then you're going to put the word repair. So define. Define what is your worst feeling that is screwing you right now. Define it. Write it down. What is your worst fear? I'm not even going to say what mine are because they're so negative. I'm not even putting them in the universe. But we all have them, right? We all have them, and they're stop programs. My husband wrote a book about this. It's a stop program of a little man on your shoulder that says, if you don't do this, this could happen. And it literally creates so much fear that you focus on what you don't want. And Chance told me one day, he's like, Mom, you could be putting a curse on your kids because of this. Like, you got to stop talking like this. I wouldn't even be saying it, but everyone could feel it. And I'll tell you where these feelings come from, you guys. They come from regret from your past. They come from abandonment from your past. They come from abuse from your past. They come from feeling inadequate in your past. They come from somebody taking their life and you feeling guilt from your past. They come from a failed relationship, something that you did that you literally have this little stop program that when you start to do it, your past creeps in, your feelings screw you, and you sabotage every good thing that could be happening right now. God is trying to move you to a healthier relationship, a happier future, a better business opportunity, a higher income, better sleep, better health, lower stress, and we literally hang on to things that are completely out of our control and try to stop when God's trying to move us into the best situation we've ever been in our life. And guilty, I have been, but not anymore. Not anymore, because I realize that patterns keep showing up. My daughter, I tell you guys, my kids are my greatest personal development coaches. I was talking to my daughter, Callie, this week about something that just absolutely broke my heart. And she said, Mom, I know. I think we all feel this way, Mom. I think we all feel this way. But she said, what you have to think about is patterns, not potential. Boom. I felt like I accidentally walked into the batting box and someone swung a home run hit. And I got knocked in the head with the bat for a minute. I was like, oh my gosh, write it down. Patterns, not potential. And if patterns keep showing up in your life, look in the mirror and say, what can I do to prevent this from happening anymore? If you're looking at another person and you're trying to change them, patterns versus potential. I can't do anything about other people. You have to surrender it and say, not my circus, not my monkeys, but sometimes it is your circus and it is your monkeys because it might be your sister or your brother or your child or your grandkids or your in-laws or whatever it is. And I was listening to Mel Robbins this week, and she was talking about a radio show she had where she literally went, and it was called The In-Laws. And she moved in with the in-laws to see why these dysfunctional families would self-destruct, arguing about the donuts or arguing about who was going to be hosting Thanksgiving or who didn't help enough with the family reunion or whatever. And just the most screwed up stuff. Literally, you guys, I only wish those were my problems. Like, oh my God, if my family was having a scuffle about who was having Thanksgiving, I'd be on my knees kneeling, praising Jesus for not having any problems in my life. Like, but to some people, that's a problem. Like, they won't talk to somebody for a while over it. Just families needing to feel like they're the most significant or something. I don't know. But defining what your fears are. Let's say, what's the worst thing that could happen? So we have a Disney trip coming up tomorrow. A lot of unforeseen circumstances, right? It was my biggest dream. I could not wait. All kinds of proverbial shit hit the fan, and it changed the situation a lot. So I love my family. They're the most important thing in my absolute life, but not very good timing. So you've spent $20,000 on a trip. Your feelings are screwing you. It's not a very good time to leave. My mother-in-law's home. She can't leave her house without us going there to get her. And we pick her up every day and bring her to the office and get her groceries, and we eat together and whatever. And I mean, we didn't plan on that in the fall. In an ideal world, both our moms would be going with us. In an ideal world, everything would be perfect. And it's just bad timing. So 3 times this week, cancel the trip. Nope, we're not going to cancel the trip. Cancel the trip. Nope, we're not going to cancel the trip. And finally, when you stop and say, why am I feeling this way? Why are my feelings screwing me? You write down, define, what is the worst thing that can happen if I take the trip? What's the worst thing that can happen if I take the trip? Well, I can think about what happened on the last trip I went on. Boy, that could really be my feelings screwing me, right? I could think about, I might get there and it might be rainy the whole time, and then I'll be completely depressed and we wasted all of our money. on Disney and it's raining the whole time. Or I could say, if I leave and my taxes don't get done, I might get a letter from the IRS, but if I go, then I could just maybe make a phone call and make sure, these are just examples. My taxes are done. That's just an example that I'm using to try and help you guys understand how your feelings screw you. So what you do, you write define, write this whole column. What if I, at the top, define everything that you're afraid of that keeps you from taking action, right? I'm afraid of, if I'm being honest, hurting someone's feelings. I'm afraid of me not being able to be present and being sad or upset. I'm afraid of what has happened in the past, when I went on a trip. I'm afraid of all kinds of things that I cannot control. Now, the next column is prevent. How could I prevent all of those things from happening? And when you write down how you could prevent every single one of those things from happening, let's say it's you saying, I would love to start a bakery, but my grandma started a bakery and she went bankrupt. Well, how could you prevent that? Mentor with someone that opened a bakery. If I'm thinking about the IRS situation, call my accountant. Make sure everything's done before I leave town. If I'm thinking about the weather situation, oh my goodness, well, if that happens, maybe we'll find an indoor water park. Maybe we'll go to an indoor aquarium. Maybe we'll find a casino. Like, I don't know what it would be, but you have to think of everything that you're defining is your fear that you don't want to happen. Your second column, you think of all the ways that you can prevent those things from happening. And if you have done everything in your power to prevent something from happening and it's going to happen anyway, that is not your business, right? There's things that are your business. There's things that are not your business. And there's things that are God's business. And the problem with me being an empath, feeling everyone else's feelings, loving so hard that even if you're not my family, I love you like you're my sister or brother. I mean, let's face it, patterns not potential. I bring a lot of my feeling screwing me on myself because when we're friends, when I sponsor you in the business, when I partner with you in business, when you come into my family, when we make a commitment, I'm all in. Like, I would take a bullet for you if we are family. I would literally sacrifice myself and my own finances. We've done it in the past. Dave is worse than I am, where when we're loyal to a fault. Literally would end up in a lawsuit because you were my friend and I was going to just take one for the team. Like, what? No, you have to draw a line and boundaries that says, I will prevent that from ever happening again. And when you draw the line and say, what am I going to do to prevent this? Then you move to the next column, repair. If it happened, it happened. If I'm at Disney and it's raining the whole week and it's a $20,000 vacation, maybe we get on a plane and we fly to freaking Arizona where the sun shines. Or maybe we just all pack up and get on a plane and we go to Hawaii where it's 70 degrees. We always wanted to go there anyway, and it would probably have been cheaper than this Disney vacation. Or we just focus on what we want and say, what good could come out of it? Here's the reality. I'm going to be with people that I love. We're going to have quality time, probably some really good brainstorming because they're serial entrepreneurs. Like, sometimes you just have to go on a walk just because you have scribblehead because they're that driven. Like, these kids are fire. They're like, well, that might be what you achieve, but I'm not trying to play small. Literally, mom, quit playing small. It's crazy the energy that we have when we're together and the love. Like, there's nothing better than a happy child, right? But the thing about it is, I look at people who have been through things that are way worse than anything that I have ever been through. Worse than a lawsuit, worse than a kid's breakup, worse than a child's addiction, worse than a brother-in-law's suicide, worse than a bankruptcy in our small town, worse than Dave's mom getting in a head-on collision, being in a trauma center for months and driving back and forth, worse than being socially brutalized like a scandal all over the internet. Like, there's a lot of shit that has happened, right? And so when it happens and you focus on it and you get in your feelings, that's when you literally have to draw the line and say, are my feelings screwing me right now when I am experiencing the biggest boom ever in business? Like, the greatest company I've ever been a part of, the most amazing financial opportunity. And you all might be able to relate to this. Are your feelings screwing you? If so, write these things down. Define what your fears are, and we're going to be fear-driven, not our goal list, our fear list of what we don't want. If I don't get my butt out of bed and start working out at 5 a.m. every single morning, even though I don't feel like it, and I'm never going to feel like it because I've written the goal 100 times, and on my dream board, everything happens. We're supposed to close on the lake house the day we're at Magic Kingdom. Like, I didn't even realize the closing was coming up that soon. There's so many good things that have happened in my life, right? But for some reason, all of us will mind screw ourselves and focus on the littlest of bad and want to cancel culture, every good thing that's happening in our life. And I'm just telling you guys this because I'm guilty, no different than every single one of you, but I have to learn. Here's the reason why this is happening to you, so that God can condition you to do amazing freaking things, not play small, not be fine, not just get by, not just be mediocre, but literally step into your greatness. And I'm going to ask you, has anyone in the history of time ever figured out what you're going through? I'm sure they have. Go to Google, look it up, find a Facebook group, find some support. Go to your local bookstore. I don't have a bookstore where I live. I have to drive 4 hours to get to one, but we're going today. And when you go to the bookstore, you can look up anything that you're going through and find someone that's literally a philosopher that can help you get from where you're at to where you want to be. And ask yourself, what if I just attempted to do this? What might happen? What if I just attempted to start a podcast with my husband called Getting It Together? Or Callie said, you should call it Pussyfooting Around with the Pitcocks. And I said, oh my God, I'm not going to call it that. Like, it would literally be a reality show that would change the world if people knew the things that we do on a daily basis and how we are playing big. We're not messing around. But when you play big, and especially when you have faith, the other day, one of my kids was going through something and I was praying for them. And our family mentor, spiritual mentor said, well, of course she is. I mean, she recommitted her Christ to life on Monday. Of course the shit hit the fan on Tuesday. That's just her test. Chill out, Mom. Like, go live your own life and let her be an adult. And here I am, 4 sleep patches, 2 CBD, calluses on my knees from praying. Like, get off the throne. You're not God, right? God's business, not your business, your business. Put it in a category. If it's not your business, release it, surrender it, and get out of your head. Get out of your head, because that's not God. You guys, if we all attempted this one thing, write down, what do you really want? Don't lie. Don't lie. Don't sound good to everybody else to make everybody else feel good. I want you to write down exactly what it is you want. The truth, not the sound good thing, the truth. What do you really want? And once you write it down, on the next page, what might go wrong? Put everything that might go wrong. And just write it all down, detailed. 3 months from now, 6 months from now, what might go wrong? And here's the other thing. If you don't take action, what's going to go wrong? Because I always put my goals and dreams on the board. I am the crazy woman with that. But I do let my feelings screw me up, because I am an empath and I love and I feel everyone else's emotions. I'm sometimes afraid to post my top achiever because I don't want to hurt the feelings of the people I know that are working even harder than them. And I'm on the phone with them and they're stuck. I want everyone to win. I want everyone to be happy. I want everyone to be with me, my whole entire family, on this vacation. I want them all to be well. I want it the Kodak moment. And here's the reality, you guys. Sometimes it's not a freaking Kodak moment. Sometimes your biggest dream ever is your worst freaking nightmare. And you just have to find a way to get through it and find the good and focus on the positive and find your blessings. I am so fortunate that I am going to get to spend a week with Lola seeing The Princess. I am so fortunate that I am healthy and that I can actually go on a trip and walk around Disney World. Because I will tell you, last night Cindy said, if I could get this body to get up and walk, I would give anything to walk into those gates of the Magic Kingdom and see that parade. How in the world could I beat myself up? Think about that. You got to be grateful. You got to be thankful. You got to find the good in every single situation. And I know this is just a raw freaking soap opera session today, but you guys, this exercise helped me so much. It helped me so much. There's been times I've had more money than I've ever had in my life and been the saddest, most emptiest person on the planet. And there's been times Dave and I were in line at the food pantry, and he's such a picky eater. In Cody, Wyoming, he wouldn't even eat anything they gave us free. But we were the two happiest souls on the planet because we were all love. We had really big dreams and goals. We had no idea how they were going to happen, but we were focused on the journey. And you guys, sometimes we get empty and we are fine and comfortable where we are instead of getting out of our comfort zone where it's never going to feel good. You're never going to feel like going on a walk. You're never going to feel like making a call. You're never going to feel like taking a risk. You're never going to say, oh, you know what? I think I'll go live 3 times a day. No, it takes discipline. But the reality, when inaction is no longer an option, because you write down these 3 columns and you say, I will live to see these kids grow up and have grandkids that graduate and get married. I will be healthy. I will be financially secure. I will be a good example to them because they live what they learn. I am stronger than this. I am bigger than this. I am bolder than this. I am worthy. Like, I am worthy is one good thing you could say. Stop putting up with all the crap. Draw a line, create some boundaries, and literally say to yourself, this is the one thing I won't accept anymore. And until you say, I won't accept this anymore, the only person that makes you feel inadequate is yourself. You're letting people do that to you. You're scribblehead. You're in your own mind. You know, my daughter, Brooklyn, she has so many goals right now, and she journals a lot, and we always talk about this. And you know, the thing about it is when you look in the mirror, you literally have to see yourself the way that everyone else sees you to truly become that champion, to truly become number one, to truly become successful. And sometimes we will let our past get in the way, the shame, the guilt, the he said, she said, the labels, whatever it is. But if you read the book, The Soul Plan, you will understand that God created every single one of us. He knew every single hair in our head. He knew how our lives were going to turn out. And this is our lifetime on his journey for our souls. That's the reality. I can't say, why would this happen to me? I just have to think, God, what's in this for me? You must be moving me to a happier chapter. You must be protecting my children. You must be giving them exactly what they've prayed for. You must be taking them through this to learn a lesson so they can empower the masses on their own podcast, on their chances starting a podcast, ups and downs. He's got this entire clothing line. Like, if he hadn't been through everything he had been through, it wouldn't be the #1 podcast on Apple Podcasts, right? It's going to be. He just knows it. If we hadn't been through all the things that we've been through, we wouldn't be conditioned to win so big. And you guys, it's the same thing for you. If he hadn't taken you through the valley, you wouldn't be able to get to the mountaintop because you wouldn't have the strength and conditioning to ever make the climb. So if you don't take anything else out of this, get your sheet out. Define, prevent, and for goodness sake, you guys, for goodness sake, take massive and immediate action. So I look forward to coming live to you next Saturday from Magic Kingdom in Disney World. And I hope that all of you guys have an amazing day. Goodbye, everyone.